Wonderful. Well, thank you everyone for having me today. My name is Heather Holton and my pronouns are she, her, and I work at the Colorado School of Mines as a data scientist for diversity, equity, and inclusion. But I also do consulting, which is where I worked with the SAGE facilities operated by IRIS, now called EarthScope, and that's where I worked with Dr. Danielle Sumi. Would you like to introduce yourself quickly?
Sure. Hi, I'm Danielle Sumi. I am a project manager at the newly formed EarthScope Consortium, which is, as Heather mentioned, used to be IRIS, the Incorporated Research Institutions for Seismology, and we have merged and joined forces with our sister agency in geodesy, UNAVCO. So happy to be here today, and Heather will be mainly driving the ship, steering us in the right direction. Thank you.
That's right. Thanks, Danielle. So over the past 3 years, we've worked together to create an online course about careers in geophysics. And so we designed this course so that it seamlessly integrates concepts about who we are as people, like anyone and everyone, for those who want to explore geosciences or geophysics disciplines. And so the course is called Unearth Your Future: How You Can Shape the Geoscience Profession for the Needs of the 21st Century. So today we'll provide an overview of the course, teach you how to sign up for the course because it's free, which is really exciting, and then introduce some of the highlights in the course and then do a live demonstration. So let's get started. All right, so this module is an asynchronous 3 to 5 hour course about the geosciences, and again, specifically with geophysics content. And it was really geared initially for first and second year undergraduate students. However, this course contains a lot of information about geoscience careers, about diversity, equity, and inclusion in the geosciences. So it's really for anyone who wants to learn more about those topics. And it's particularly interesting for faculty if they want to be able to integrate some of this information into their existing courses. When I say asynchronous, that means that you can go through the module at your own pace. It's not set up like a semester where you have to attend every week. So you can start the module, pause for a couple days, go back to it, and pick up where you left off. So the module discusses a brief overview of geoscience and geophysics technical concepts, what careers are available in the profession, how to pursue a career that combines your unique skills, interests, and passions, and then it does all of that by using diversity, equity, and inclusion by design. So we developed this module as part of the broader impacts for EarthScope to raise awareness of our discipline and to reduce the barriers of participation for people of all backgrounds and social identities. And so this project is in partnership with the American Geosciences Institute, AGI, because we're using their Geoscience Online Learning Initiative, their GOALI platform, and that's where the course is hosted. And we've had several collaborators over the years along the way, including Dr. David McConnell's Geoscience Education Research Group at North Carolina State University. And specifically, we worked with Joyce Smith, who's a PhD candidate, and she did all of our geoscience and geophysics content videos. We also worked with Dr. Carol Ormond at the Science Education Resource Center, otherwise known as SERC, and Carol helped us build the evaluation components for the module. So before we dive into the details, I want to give you a chance to sign up for the course so you can follow along with us if you want to. So the first thing you need to do is open up your browser and go to this URL. And actually, we'll have someone from AGU type this URL into the chat so that way you can just grab it and go. So it's https://learning.americangeosciences.org.
Heather, it's been posted in the chat.
Awesome, thank you so much. So once you get there, you're going to come across this page here, and I want you to look for the register button. See that arrow fly in? So once you find the register button, you can click it. It's near the top right part of the page. And what will happen is it'll direct you on how to make a profile. So I'll give you all a few moments now to make your profile, it'll ask you questions for a username and email address, kind of the basic user content. And then once you're able to make a profile, you'll have access to the entire course list in Goalie, which is pretty cool. And all of the courses on there are totally free. And if you wouldn't mind, once you go and finish making your profile, type something in the chat to let us know that we can move on. How's it going for folks?
So Heather, I don't think the attendees can type in the chat.
Oh, they can't. Okay. Well, then we will move on slowly just to give folks enough time to finish filling out their profiles.
That one person has a question.
Yeah.
Mary, I'm not sure if I can unmute you, and then maybe you can try to ask your question.
Okay, the question is, she's asking, how do we access the chat? You can just, yeah. So I don't think attendees can put questions or in the chat.
Okay,
So
no problem.
it should just be a little gray button that says chat. Just click on it and it will show you the link. Okay. So attendees can only ask questions. They cannot participate in the chat.
We can't participate in this chat, and we can't access what she wants us to access.
What was the question?
We can't participate in the chat, and we can't access what you want us to access.
Oh, you can't access this HTTPS?
Yeah, the link.
Really? Well, that's not good. Is it something with, does it say like the security? Is that like giving you an error about like, oh, this doesn't have a secure?
No, it's about we can't see the chat, so we can't get the link from the chat. Except we just get it on another device and try to access it.
Oh, I see. They can't see the chat, the thing that was posted from Pernodi. Gotcha.
So
well, you can always just type this URL into your browser as well.
Okay, we will work with the attendees separately. Heather, why don't you please continue so that we
That sounds
can
good.
finish the webinar on time. So
Okay.
I will reach out to the attendee. Thanks.
That sounds good. Thank you so much. So once we have a profile made, what you'll find is a course list, and you'll want to identify this particular course. This is the thumbnail for the course, and it's called Unearth Your Future. So once you select this course, you can enroll in the course, and then we'll be all set. So moving on. Now that we know how to access the course, hopefully, we'll go over some of the basics of what is included in the course. So this is the course roadmap. And other than the introduction and the conclusion sections, there are 4 main sections in the module. The first provides technical content of our discipline, and we use a variety of written content, images, animations, and live action videos to provide overviews of key geophysics concepts and the different disciplines in geophysics. And so this is where Joyce Smith designed the videos specifically tailored for our module. And so Joyce's videos include an overview of geoscience and geophysics broadly, and that's 2 different videos, a video on seismology, one on near surface geophysics, another one on geodynamics, and then a last one on natural hazards. And that one also includes emergency management and social science information. The second section highlights the workforce data, and it explains the skills needed in the profession. And so we discuss the workforce data specifically in relation to who traditionally has been welcomed into the geoscience discipline and who hasn't been welcomed into our discipline. The third section demonstrates how to integrate your own passions and social identities to build a unique career in the geosciences. And so it's here where we also discuss active bystander intervention skills, so that way you can be prepared to intervene or take action if you observe or experience something that really is unwelcoming during your time in the geosciences. And then the last section has information about the job search. So we provide guides on how to write a resume, how to practice networking, and how to market yourself to potential employers, really down to the nitty-gritty details of how do you actually get a job. So each of those 4 main sections has pages with practical applications of this content, so that way students can really apply what they're learning to build their own career paths. Okay, so now I want to highlight something from the first section of the course. We're going to play it here. I'm going to turn off the audio so that way you can hear me speak. All right, so this is an example of an animation that we've developed. At the end of the geophysics technical content section, we introduce the concept of how students can relate their own interests and passions to the geosciences. That way they can build a career that's uniquely suited for them, for the individual. And this animation uses AGI's Geoscience Careers infographic, and it discusses the different sectors of the geoscience workforce, and it also gives examples of real occupations that geoscientists actually hold. We designed the animation to highlight a variety of geoscience career paths, and that includes occupations that have field, lab, and/or computing components, occupations in policy, ones in education or business, also occupations that are in the federal, state, local, or tribal governments. And then we even highlight occupations in medicine, which is really cool. We also depict real geoscientists with different social identities to provide examples of role models from across our scientific community. Here we go. Let's discuss how we're using diversity, equity, and inclusion by design. So we know, probably many of us, from personal experiences, perhaps from looking at our workforce data in the geosciences, and perhaps from reading articles and the literature in this research area, we know that the geosciences are some of the least diverse disciplines of all of the STEM fields, right? This is a big challenge that we have been trying to grapple with for a very, very long time. And so we know broadening participation in our science is vitally important to ensure that we represent the populations that we serve and that it can help us produce our best science, of course. So we can only sustain that diversity by making our discipline more inclusive and welcoming to everyone, to all identities. So our module focuses on highlighting diverse representation and using inclusive best practices. So discussing DEI-related concepts within the context of our science is really important. So that way, those ideas are not thought of as separate topics, right? But they're really actually interrelated. And so something we also did is we did our best to stay away from the typical geoscience stereotypes that can be really off-putting and really harmful to certain populations. Also, a key feature of the module is highlighting the applications to society and demonstrating how our work really does make a difference to local communities. So in the module, we highlight many different geophysics and geoscience careers and how and where the work is conducted, and that it actually has practical applications in the real world, and it really helps local and national communities and global communities worldwide. To be inclusive of all different types of identities, we were really intentional with who is represented in our pictures, in our videos. We use different voice actors for our animations, and in the examples of professionals, as shown here on this slide. We also explicitly discuss DEI concepts and how they inherently play a role in STEM, right? Because again, if people are participating in STEM, then DEI has to be a component. So some of these concepts that we included in the module were discussions around social identities, privilege, implicit bias, what are microaggressions. We have a page on authenticity, and we also dive into the importance of mentoring and having role models. So not only do we interweave these concepts in with the scientific and the careers content, but we also provide learning and development around overcoming the challenges and the barriers to facing some of these things. So those are some of the practical applications. So the module has been up and running since October of 2022, so it's just a few months now. But prior to the module's launch, we conducted 2 different pilot studies to find out what was working in the module and the things that weren't working in the module. So I wanted to share with you some of the comments from the students who participated in the pilots. Here's the first one. This student said, "The biggest thing I learned was how to properly handle and de-escalate a situation. I also enjoyed the many different career paths and salaries offered for the course. I did not know geoscientists could be educators and engineers." So that's pretty cool. A different student said, "The biggest thing I learned in this course was how much geoscience was integrated into everyday topics. My passion is medicine, and I learned that in this course, I could still have a medical path within geoscience, and now I want to minor in geoscience." So to us, that was a huge success, thinking like, wow, we're really getting this information out there. We're making sure that it's inclusive of a lot of different identities and career paths. This could actually make a difference. And then the last quote I'd like to share with you, this student said, "My favorite part of the module would be the mentions of diversity, as well as women's equality. A community that celebrates diversity and equality can properly express creativity and knowledge." So again, they're really picking up on how we integrated DEI by design into the module. So that was really exciting. All right, now we are going to jump into the live demonstration portion of this webinar. So for this, I'll be sharing my screen and we'll go through a few of these different sections of the course. The first we'll go through are the geoscience videos that were created by Joyce Smith. And then we'll dive into a little bit of a preview of the workforce data and the skills. And then we'll go through some of the DEI content about overcoming our challenges and the bystander intervention. And then we'll go through the tips on how to actually get a job. So here we go. Once you enroll in the course, this should pop up under your course list. So right now I'm only enrolled in one course, and this is what it looks like. Once we click into here, it's going to load, and right now I'm auditing. So it's going to land you at this initial page. For more information about instructions on how to navigate through the course and some of the details of the course, you can expand this by doing show less or show more, and that'll help you understand, some important notes for instructors if you happen to be a faculty member, where to find your progress, the discussion forums that we've built in, the syllabus, things of that nature. Here is the outline. This is basically a smaller version of that course roadmap. So we have the introduction and wrapping up sections. So it's the intro and the conclusion. And then here are the 4 main content sections. 1, 2, 3, 4 here. Those are the ones that we discussed earlier. So we're going to dive in. You can hit the little plus symbol here. And each of the main sections have different section objectives. And so you'll want to go through the very beginning to make sure you read through all of those, but I'm going to jump ahead and show you some of the highlights of the course. So So we can see that here, this is how we navigate through the course. We have these little tabs, and you can either hit previous here, and that'll take you to a previous section, or you can hit next there. And this section here, this gives you the overview of where you are in the course. So this is the main part of the course where we had started. This is the main section, what is geoscience and geophysics? And then this is the set of content pages, what is geophysics? So here we are. This video gives us an overview of what is geophysics very broadly. If we were to navigate across, then we move into geodynamics. And as you can see, we have a little bit of an introduction in the text here. We have the video. We also can enable or disable the closed captioning here in two different ways. The closed captioning can be here in yellow, or it can be scrolling on the side. Here is our seismology video. And then we included a geodesy video as well. This is from UNAVCO that they developed several years ago at this point. Here's our near surface geophysics video. And finally, the natural hazards and emergency management. Here we have a little bit more content, a picture. This is from the earthquake in Puerto Rico in 2019. And if we scroll down this way, here's this video as well. And we talk a little bit more about different natural hazards. So at the end, we have a discussion. And so for learners who want to participate and really dive deeper into the content, we ask that they share their thoughts with us. And so we have a discussion prompt here. And then this is how you can add a post by clicking this button here. And then you can also add to what people have already said. So this way we really increase the engagement for students who are taking part of this asynchronous course. So even though people are taking it at different times, they can still interact with each other. And so that's the really cool part of this. So that's an overview of those geophysics videos that I wanted to show you. If we go back by clicking that course, you can see, all right, great. We were in this section, what is geoscience and geophysics? And we clicked into the what is geophysics. The relating your interests and passions, these are the set of pages that had that infographic with the video that I showed you earlier in the webinar. We can minimize this now, and let's move on to the second section, where we have what opportunities await for you in a geoscience profession. This is the section that has a lot of the workforce data, so we'll jump in here. So in these pages, we try to provide an overview of the geoscience workforce data, so that way we have a bigger and broader understanding of really what's going on overall in the discipline. So these data are from the American Geosciences Institute's workforce program, and we took their information and we presented some content in a narrative form here. And that helps give us a bigger picture of really what is the workforce actually like, you know, like what are the changes that we expect to have in the next 10-ish years? You know, what are the projected workforce changes by the industry? So we have a lot of different data here, and we talk about the talent deficit, and we talk about how do we make sure that we have enough talent to come into the discipline to fill all of the occupations that we know that we're going to need for geoscientists. Since we are using diversity, equity, and inclusion by design, we also wanted to make sure that we were really transparent and open about the representation of women and geoscientists of color in our discipline. And so here we discuss different workforce data about how women have been traditionally welcomed into the discipline, and the same for our scientists of color here. And so at the end of these data and the discussions, we discuss some of the different historical programs that have been running in the geosciences and things that our profession is doing to address these concerns, you know, because they're really important to deal with. We also have a discussion on like, why do we even care? And so I think that this is going to be really helpful potentially for faculty who want to be able to try to have some of these discussions as part of their courses. If we were to click next, then that's going to lead us into the next set of content pages, which talks about salary information, and we have more discussion threads here. So now let's jump back to the course. And what's great about this is you can go through and peruse the different pages and sections of the course at your leisure, and then you can always navigate back to where you want to go and what you want to explore next. So we were here in what opportunities await for you in a geoscience profession. That included a lot of the workforce data, the salary data, and later on we also talk about skills and competencies needed to be a geoscientist. But now let's jump into this section. How can you build a career that's suited for you? This is really where we dive into the DEI concepts and really integrate this information in with the geoscience careers content. I'm going to go through this quickly because in here we actually introduce some key concepts first, and we have an article that we want our students to read that includes some of these ideas about social identities, privilege, unconscious bias, and microaggressions, and how it really fits into the geosciences and how it kind of manifests, right, in our discipline. And so we go through some of these things. We share some videos. We have discussion posts again, so further engagement opportunities. This I wanted to highlight because I really love this video from AGU. It's a Pathways Through Science video. And so this is a really interesting one that fits really well in with this topic of discussion. We also highlight the career compass, and this one is specifically for geophysics. So AGU and AGI had a collaboration where they created a whole bunch of different career compass images, such as this. I think there are posters, and it teaches students, whether you're at the undergraduate level or the graduate level, how to build your career and how to go through a pathway in specific geoscience disciplines. And so here we highlight one with geophysics. And we also created a video animation for this infographic as well. So that was a really cool outcome, being able to collaborate with AGU on this project once again. So let's navigate back to the main part of the course. And if we go back to this third section, this again is the kind of the DEI section, I wanted to share with you this pages about how to overcome some of the challenges. And so in these pages, we discuss things like overcoming imposter syndrome, because this is a really, really common phenomenon that students and professionals alike, you know, we all suffer from imposter syndrome at one point or another. And so we really discuss kind of the background of where this idea came from and what to do about it. We have a whole discussion thread about overcoming imposter syndrome. And so these pages are trying to help our learners how to navigate some of these challenges so that way they don't feel so alone, like, oh my gosh, I'm the only one experiencing this feeling, right? Once we go through the imposter syndrome page, then we introduce this concept of how to be an active bystander. And we introduce some videos here where we provide examples of what does that really mean and like, where does this pop up, right? Like, when is it needed? And then we introduce the 5 Ds of intervention by Hollaback. And they have all of these wonderful resources on how to actually intervene when you see something challenging or when you see an environment that's very unwelcoming. How do you jump in that instance, right? And so they have these 5 Ds. It's distract, delegate, document, delay, and direct. And so they have all of these different resources. And then once again, we build in these discussion threads for learners to actually start practicing. And we have different scenarios here on, like, if they were to witness something like this, how would they actually approach the situation? How would they apply those 5 Ds of intervention to help out their colleague or their peer or their student? So this whole section is really that applied, we try to have folks apply the aspects of what we've been teaching throughout this course. Yes, thank you, Pranoti, for that resource. So then along with this section is helping students learn how to find the resources when they need them, right? A lot of times we don't know, like, okay, something bad happened, I feel icky, but like, now what? What do? I tried to intervene, but I'm still feeling like not that great about what just happened. So where can I go? And so this page provides us with some ideas and some strategies on how to do the research and like figure out, what do I do next? Where can I go? And then we have a final discussion post to kind of wrap up these concepts. So I think this section in particular could be really valuable, not only for students, because it's teaching them the skills and the resources they might need along the way in their geoscience career, but it's also potentially really helpful for faculty to be able to integrate this into their existing curriculum. So now let's move on and go to the very last section of the course. And this is all about how do you actually get a job? Say that you're, a junior or a senior in your degree program, or you're finishing up your graduate degree and you're like, okay, it is time for me to go find a job in the geosciences, but I don't even know where to start. Help, right? It's tricky out there. So this whole last section is all about providing you with resources and tips and tricks on how to actually do the job search, which can be really intimidating and really confusing. So we first start off with discussing the importance of internships. So since this module was originally developed for first and second year undergraduate students, we wanted to get this on their radar early on. So that way they think about internships earlier in their careers, not just when they're in their final year of their degree program. So thinking about like, oh, wow, I should really start preparing for an internship. How do I do that? So that way they can have an internship as a junior or a senior, right? Or even as a sophomore, earlier in their careers, to get them that kind of experience that they need to be competitive when they graduate. So here we discuss the importance of internships. We provide some examples of that. Then we have another video of someone who had an internship in a seismology type field. And yeah, it just kind of provides some of that basic information on where do we even start with internships. The next page is all about networking, right? It provides information on why is networking so important? We hear about this all the time, but like, how do I even do it? And where does it even get me? And so we provide some information on how to go through the networking process and other useful job search resources that undergraduates use to be able to get their jobs, right? The next page really dives into the differences between a resume and a CV. I can't tell you how many times I get this question. When I attend national conferences such as AGU or GSA and others, and I'm working with students, they always ask me, well, what is even the difference? Like, what is a resume versus a CV? And when should I use each of them? And it's just so confusing. And you're right. It is. It's really confusing. And so we wanted to break this down as to what the distinctions are between these two things and when is the most appropriate time to use them. Because guess what? Sometimes in some very specific types of job postings, they say submit your resume, but what they really want is a CV. And it's just like, how are you ever supposed to know that? So we provide some of that information on how to figure it out. At the end of this page, we also provide links to actual real resumes and CVs so you can get an idea of the structure, the layout, how things flow, and that way you can start practicing building your own. Again, really practical applications to help students. This next part discusses what informational interviews are and how to build your own elevator speech, right? And so we discussed kind of the formula for building an elevator speech, and we created our own animation and our own example of what a really cool elevator speech is. And actually, our co-presenter today, Dr. Danielle Sumi, she's highlighted in this video, so that's really fun. So you should definitely go and watch it. Little plug for you there, Danielle. And then the last part of this section is highlighting a brand new careers website that was just developed. This is developed by a PhD candidate named Madison Wood, Maddie, and she did an absolutely phenomenal job at aggregating a ton of different resources from our geoscience community at large and putting it into this one open resource. It's a website that helps students and academic departments learn about geoscience careers and all of the different pathways and what resources are available to students who want to pursue different things in the geosciences. And so it's called GROW, or yes, it's the Geoscience Resources on Opportunities in the Workforce. So that's the acronym is GROW. And this website is absolutely phenomenal. I really highly recommend that you go through there and you work through it and see what types of opportunities are out there, because this resource really did take some of the best information from across our community and put it into one place. So that way it's a one-stop shop for career information. All right, so those are the things that I really wanted to highlight as a demonstration in the course. What we can do now is open it up to questions. I can, if there's a particular question on a particular section, we can go and navigate to that. But really, this is now time for you to ask me any questions that you may have. So I want to say thank you so much for participating in the webinar and for watching this talk.
Thanks, Heather. Yes, so we can use the Q&A box for questions. If our attendees want to send questions, please do that. And it turns out that you can also use the chat, except the chat can only be seen by the staff. So I'm not sure, Heather, if you'll be able to see those, but we can help monitor that chat as well as the Q&A. And while folks are sort of typing up their questions, maybe I can ask you a question. See, you alluded to this being a very asynchronous course. So is it possible for someone to start, about the CV and kind of do it in reverse order if they already know some of this information about the geosciences? So
That's a great question. Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, once you have access to the course, if there's one particular section that you want to go to, you can just navigate and jump to that right away. And you don't necessarily have to do it in any particular order. Now, of course, we did design it in a way that it makes the most sense to do it in a particular order. But, if you're just looking for job search strategies and tips, you can definitely just jump to that section. Or if you're really more curious about like the DEI stuff and how that all interrelates, then you can just jump to section 3.
Great, thanks so much. So other questions, what other questions do we have? So if you're interested and you don't want to type, you can also raise your hand and we will unmute you and give you an opportunity to ask questions. And again, as those are coming in, let me ask you another question. So since the course launched, can you tell us how many students have used it? What other feedback have you had? Have you heard back from those who were successful and they've reached back out, applauding the course? I'd love to hear what stories you might have to share.
Yeah, so I think right now we have well over 100 different people auditing the course or going through the course, which is pretty fantastic. And we launched this right before the GSA meeting in October of last year, and we got a lot of input and participation from that initial push. And now our goal was to try to get this module available for this spring semester, because typically in the spring semester is when faculty start to integrate a lot of the careers content into their curriculum and start discussing things about internships and jobs and things of that nature with their students. And so now we're trying to get the word out to allow faculty to use this module as part of their courses, so that way they don't have to just create content, on their own. This kind of does the work for them. So we're hoping that our numbers will continue to increase and that folks will continue to use the module this semester.
Great. Have you also had a lot of faculty who have already started using this in their course? Have you heard from faculty who might be using it?
Really good question. I have not had any faculty reach out to me specifically, Danielle. I don't know if anyone's reached out to you. Anything?
No, but I did want to mention that I think we have been doing a lot of piloting with this, specifically with Fort Valley State University, which is a historically Black college or HBCU. Outside of Atlanta, Georgia, and we've received a lot of really great feedback from the professors who have used it there. We also, and a lot of this has been through projects that we know have been funded through the NSF GeoPaths that we've been trying to specifically get connected with. But as Heather mentioned, we've been in a really big push of dissemination because this was just released right before the GSA meeting, and it's only been a few months. So we have a lot of work to do to just get the information out there. I'll be presenting this work at the GSA meeting upcoming in Reston next month, as well as at the Seismological Society of America meeting in April. That's in Puerto Rico, which is nice. So yeah, we've been really working hard on just getting the information out there.
Great. So Liz, I'm going to turn it over to you. I can see that there are questions coming up, but for some reason I can't read them. So I'm going to let you manage the questions.
No problem. So one of the first questions from Carolina is, does this course have any module for international students? Example, strategies to find sponsorship.
Unfortunately, we don't have specific information on visas or sponsorships or things of that nature. I did include one component in there as an article from an international student that talks about the hidden curriculum and how coming to the United States and not knowing our system and not knowing how everything works really serves as a barrier and really disadvantages our international students, because the hidden curriculum is like, you don't know what you don't know, right? And so we do integrate discussions for international students, such as those types of topics.
Great, thanks. Next question comes from Wendy. What are the biggest challenges for people starting a geoscience career? What are the biggest challenges to survival of the geo professions?
I might open that up to our other folks on that, because I think honestly it can be different for everyone. And it really depends on what discipline you are pursuing and what you're in. For some of our disciplines, especially in relation to like commodities and energy, there's there's often a boom bust cycle where there will be times where there's a ton of hiring and a ton of jobs and amazing salaries, but then our global economy and our demand and things happen to make that change, and then there's a series of layoffs. And so that can be a really challenging type of career experience for a lot of people if they're in those specific types of industries. But then, you know, there are industries that don't follow that at all, right? And so you don't have to be kind of stuck in that one really narrow type of field. Any other particularly challenging things that Danielle would like to share, or Pranoti? We're all geoscientists here. I see that we're laughing.
I don't know, Pranoti, do you want to take that?
Yeah, sure. I was thinking, in recent times, the tech industry has gone through a lot of layoffs, right? So it's, I don't know if it's a cyclical thing, but it's been happening in recent times. But many of those folks who have data science and computer science and all those other skill sets, they can very easily use those same skill sets in many other industries. I think, Heather, one of the components of this course, you referred to skills, and I think this is one of those hot
That's
skills
right.
that can help you make that transition. So in that same way, like project management, right? When you do research in the geosciences, that's an example of project management. You can parlay that into a different industry. So maybe Heather, you can go back to the course there.
Yeah, absolutely. Can you see the screen still? Yeah, so this is one page of the course that talks specifically about the geoscience skills that are needed for the profession. And this is just a very small example of some of the skills, right? And so here we found this was a research project through AGI and AAG. And they found that if the circle here was yellow and the yellow circle was bigger, it meant that the students were basically like over prepared, that they were prepared really well in these areas. We're thinking like paleontology, structure, tectonics, seismic investigations, deformational history. But then if the blue circle here, this kind of teal circle, if that one is bigger, that means that it's really important to the workforce as indicated by professionals and actual geoscientists who are working professionals. And so we found that if the blue circle was bigger, then it was a really important skill for students to have, but that the yellow circle's smaller and they were underprepared for how important it is in the workforce. And so if we go into these non-technical skills, we found that a lot of these kind of workplace skills, right, they were really highly important in the profession, but that the student preparation was not keeping up pace. And so I think a challenge for students trying to find a job in the workforce, it's making sure that you practice and have the appropriate skill sets to actually do the job you need to do and to market those skills as well. And so we're talking about like fiscal management. Do you know how to work with budgets? Because if you go into the consulting arena, or really any kind of like arena where you have to do project management, you're gonna have to work with budgets and have some fiscal management experience, right? It's not typically something that geoscience students learn in their curriculum. Or thinking about time management. We have so many overlapping projects, competing deadlines, different priorities that shift in the list. Like making sure that you have really strong time management skills is also vitally important. So I think some of these things, especially when you're trying to market yourself to employers during the interview process, talking about some of these non-technical skills in addition to your technical geoscience skills is going to be really helpful for you.
Great. We have some comments. This skill slide is awesome. All right, another question.
There's also a whole video about the skills as well. So if that infographic, it is a little busy. It can be a tiny bit confusing. You really have to sit and like digest it a bit. But we created an animation here to go through it with you and really discuss how to read it, and also discuss kind of the implications of skills as well.
And then what was this exact course called, if you scrolled up to the top?
Yeah, we'll go back here. This is the course name, and this is the thumbnail for the course.
Okay.
So as you see it in that course list on the Goalie platform, this is where you'll find it. Or this is what it looks like to find it in the list of courses.
So I just
Perfect.
posted the link and
Yeah.
the course name in the chat for those of who are looking for it.
Great, thank you. We have 2 more questions. If you decide to change career paths after putting in a significant amount of work in, what is a reasonable amount of time you should expect to put in, and how would you go about this?
Yeah, and are you trying to change, I wonder if you're trying to change career paths, are you also trying to at least use some of your transferable skills from what you've learned in the geosciences into your new career path? Because again, a lot of the things that we learn as geoscientists are highly, highly transferable to other professions, right? And I think that that time to being successful and to going into another profession is going to be shortened if you are adequately able to demonstrate how your skills are transferable to other roles. And in fact, this is really where this part of the course would help you with this. It's in the first section, and then it's called Relating Your Interests and Passions here. And in this is where we shared with you, well, it is actually this. This is where we have that video of the infographic that I showed in the webinar video with the animation that I muted. This is this video. We broke it up into 2 different parts because it's a little bit long. And then we provide a whole bunch of different videos, content, blogs, articles, stories, different things of geoscientists with a whole bunch of different occupations. And we talk about those transferable skills here in this section. And then I believe we also have a discussion thread about the different intersections of geoscience. So I hope that at least this part of the module might help you clarify some of those things.
Okay, I see we have 5 minutes here, so maybe one last question here.
Right.
Is there room for remote sensing and GIS? And are your people working with African volunteers?
Yes, there is so much to do with remote sensing and GIS. We do highlight some of that stuff in the module throughout in different places. As far as working with African volunteers, Danielle, you've done a lot with international work in geophysics and seismology. Would you like to touch on that? Because there's definitely opportunities, but she might have more experience in that realm.
I don't know about that specifically with volunteers. I would say that I have worked with like a postdoctoral fellow who is originally from Ghana. In fact, he is featured in the elevator speech that Heather talked about. We did that together. And I also work with somebody who is in Kenya currently. But employed, I try to employ and pay for as many people as I can, you know, when I can do that. So that's always been my point of view, is to try to pay people whenever I can. So yeah, but I think like going back to some of the other questions as well, is that, you know, your career path is going to change just because you're going to change as a person too. Your interests will change, the things that you want to do will change, your life will change in different ways. And so I think be open to different opportunities as you develop as an individual and as, you know, you go through your life. because that will also show you what career opportunities you're open to as well. I am somebody who has a PhD in seismology. I have worked on earthquake early warning for the past 4 years. Started directing a team of, it could range anywhere from 10 to 15 people, depending on the day, and have been working primarily international with people in Canada. And so I never thought that I would be working more closely with social scientists, including psychologists, on moving earthquake early warning forward. But that's where I'm at, and it's been really fun to direct teams. That's why we needed to bring Heather on to be able to do this careers module. And it's just, it's one of the reasons I have a PhD and also decided to go for my project management professional certification. And it's led me to where I am today. So I think there's a lot of growth that can happen throughout your career, and regardless of whether you stay in the geosciences or decide to pursue something else. I agree with Heather that there's a lot of transferable skills that will translate easily to other professions.
Guess this has been really fabulous. I'm not seeing any other questions coming up. I finally figured out how to read those questions in a GoToWebinar. So every day I learn something new. So thank you so much, Heather and Danielle, for your time today. We really, really appreciate it. We are recording this, and we will hopefully be able to share this with all the attendees very soon. We will also be sharing the PowerPoint. We'll create a PDF, and we will share it with everybody in the circle, so you can check out some of these links. But please do take the time and check out this course. It is absolutely free. It only involves whatever time you want to invest in learning this material or being exposed to this material. So thank you, everybody. This was really terrific, and have a great evening or rest of the day. Thanks so much, everyone.